The narrative begins with a man called Ida quietly napping off on his living room couch, immersed in a dream in which he faced a ferocious dragon, when he is startled by someone calling his name, Chiwa Harusaki. His boyhood best friend was by his side when he fell off the sofa. Chiwa raced in to check on Ada, astounded by the tremendous noise from his residence, and told him that everything was fine. As the evening approached, she immediately turned her focus to dinner plans. Ada's kitchen supplies were nearly depleted, but Chiwa insisted on accompanying him to the market. Ada reluctantly agreed to her insistent demands, recognizing he had no choice. Chiwa remarked at the market on how Ada had changed recently. She advised him to take a vacation from studying because he had already received the top scores in their most recent tests. Ada, on the other hand, indicated that academic accomplishment is not his ultimate ambition. Ada continued to study over their meal, prompting Chiwa to wonder if there were easier colleges to get into. But, despite the hefty costs of medical school, Ada refused to accept mediocrity, and he didn't want to burden his aunt, Seiko. Ada scrubbed the dishes after supper as Chiwa browsed through a magazine. She casually mentioned Natsukawa Masuzu from their class, complimenting her beauty. Ada, on the other hand, remained uninterested in Chiwa's topic of conversation. Ida recounted his daily reminders the next day. Prioritize your studies, avoid superfluous and harmful love, and avoid being mistaken as gay. He observed Seiko asleep on the sofa as he readied for the day. Chiwa talked non-stop on the drive to school about wanting to be popular with males, even asking Ida for her opinion on her new clip-ons. Ida, indifferent and unconcerned about these concerns. Ada was informed in class by a male classmate called Kaoru that Chiwa had been brought to the disciplinary office for causing a disturbance by loudly declaring her admiration for Ada. Ada, frustrated by Chiwa's actions, dismissed and shrugged it off. Ada questioned Kaoru about why everyone seems to be obsessed with love. But Kaoru claimed that anti-love people like Ada are uncommon. Kaoru then quickly asked Ada if his parents had ever contacted him. Ada, who had harbored tremendous hatred toward his parents since they abandoned him in middle school to pursue new relationships, rejected the idea of them being his parents and, as a result, loathed love. Masuzu approached Ada and sat near him when their homeroom teacher came and adjusted the seating allocations. Ada couldn't help but stare at her, while their peers envied his proximity to the school's most popular and beautiful lady. Ida's main objectives were to get a reference from his high school for admission to a public university and to get a funded scholarship for medical school. Masuzu, on the other hand, approached Ida after class and loudly proclaimed her feelings for him, generating a commotion among their classmates. Ida questioned Masuzu about her plans when they were alone. Masuzu first tried to keep it a secret, but she eventually revealed her motivation. She grew tired of being asked out on dates and proclaimed her scorn for love. This made Ada wonder what was causing her overwhelming emotions. Masuzu suddenly pulled a notepad from her bag and began reading childish and embarrassing stories that Ada recognized as his. Masuzu resorted to blackmail after seeing Ada's reaction, threatening to expose his stories unless he agreed to her intentions. Faced with probable humiliation, she even had a copy saved on her computer. As the sun set on their journey home, Ida grudgingly consented to Masuzu's demands. Chiwa dashed towards Ida and Masuzu, exclaiming that Ida was keeping his relationship with Masuzu hidden from her. She voiced her disappointment, claiming that as his closest childhood friend, she should have known. Masuzu stepped in, introduced herself, and surprised everyone by grasping Ada's arm and proposing a date. Chiwa, her eyes filled with inexplicable feelings. I stood there watching Ada and Masuzu walk away together. During lunch the next day, Kaoru and Ada sat together and expressed their surprise that Ada was dating someone despite his anti-love stance. Ada expressed his amazement as well, but explained how he had come to appreciate the hardships Masuzu faced on a daily basis. Being the target of rumor and continually scrutinized by others was an unsettling situation. Kru asked if Chia had come to school that day, but Ida was unsure because Chia had grown distant since he began dating me. Suzu, Kru pushed Ida to settle his disagreements with Chia because she was like family to him on their way home after hearing this from Ada. Ida wanted to share something with me, Suzu, while we were together, but she already knew what he was going to say. Ida apologized, and I was touched by his honesty. Ida told me, Suzu, that she wanted to be popular at school. As a result, Masuzu asked Ada to bring Chiwa to her the next day. She told him to be excited about it. Ada escorted Chiwa to a room where Masuzu, clad in a kimono and carrying a fan, exuded elegance. When Masuzu saw that Chiwa was having difficulty attracting male attention, she promised to assist and told her own invented love tale to persuade Chiwa. Chiwa initially declined Masuzu's offer, but eventually agreed. Masuzu decided to start a club to teach young ladies correct manners and etiquette, redefining what it meant to be a refined and lovely lady. Chiwa liked the club's name, but Ada was not as enthusiastic. Chiwa and Masuzu set a goal of approaching Sakagami, a third-year basketball player. Chiwa had to befriend Sakagami's brother and pretend to be a guitarist in order to do this. Their idea, however, did not work out as planned, and Chiwa's performance with the guitar case resulted in bizarre and perplexing motions. Masuzu questioned Ada about his persistent presence around Chiwa during a private moment in the club area. He explained that they had grown up together and lived next door to each other. Masuzu expected Chiwa to leave the club following their humiliating classroom incident. Shihua, however, surprised her by returning, quietly enjoying tea with no indication of melancholy. Shihua, according to Ada, would not leave the club on her own until she achieved her goal. He told the story of Chihua in middle school, when she was anticipated to be the star of the kendo squad but had a hip injury. She recovered to the point that it no longer interfered with her daily life after extensive rehabilitation. However, she was no longer able to participate in athletics. She'd lost sight of her old aim, but she'd discovered something new to devote her heart to. Nasuzu, determined not to let up, eventually found answers to her questions, but reminded Ada that he belonged to her. Nasuzu recommended Chiwa to confess to Sakagami since she was certain he already knew things about Chiwa based on her previous behavior. Chiwa was first hesitant, but later consented. Ada, on the other hand, was worried about her and wondered if the strategy was sound, but she still stood by her decision. Chiwa posted a letter on Sakagami's shoe locker encouraging him to confess to her on the rooftop. Chiwa was on the terrace watching the sunset when she noticed Sakagami smiling as he approached her. He began to speak about what he had heard about her prior to her previous deeds. I thought it was intriguing and cool. He had a thing for gals like that. He then invited Chiwa to visit a movie with him on Sunday to get to know her better. Misuzu couldn't stop grinning as they headed back home, because their plan had come together wonderfully. Everything went according to plan for their first victory. Ida's journal, also known as her first love's journal, formed the basis of her plan. He then proceeded to mock him by implying that he should be happier, but he rejected it by claiming that it had nothing to do with him. Chiwa, on the other hand, began to express her genuine belief that the person who wrote Masuzu's first love journal was wonderful, not realizing that the owner of the journal was Ida. Chihua thought it was incredible that he believed all of those things without feeling ashamed. Hearing those things from Chihua made Ida wonder how they sounded cool to others while being a blot on his background. Ida prepared a big amount of food for supper to commemorate Chihua's accomplishment. Seeing how delighted Ida was about going on a date with a man made her worried about how happy he was about it. When Ida caught sight of Chihua, he was surprised by her actions and questioned why she was upset after working so hard for him. Chiwa sobbed and called Ada a jerk, wishing she hadn't known him at all. He raced out of his house, tears streaming down her cheeks. All of this was done to make Ada angry about her dating other men. She felt more for him and wanted him to see her as a mature woman, not a younger sister. When Chiwa returned from the hospital following the accident, a flashback from Ada and Chiwa's history was presented. She raced to his house to check on him, despite the fact that she was still recovering from the accident. She was concerned about Ida's health because his parents had recently divorced and left him to explore other relationships. They talked about their new aspirations when they started high school over dinner. Chihua indicated that she would establish new goals because she would be unable to play kendo. But Ada planned to study more and obtain good grades in order to gain admission to a medical university and become a doctor in order to treat Chihua's injuries from the accident. Chihua fell into tears merely hearing her say those things. She had no idea he was thinking such thoughts. Chihua arrived at the arranged location sooner than Sakagami the next Sunday. Ada, on the other hand, thought that something was strange with their date, so he came to keep an eye on Chihua. He didn't want anything to go wrong with his close pal. Masuzu soon arrived to witness Chihua's first date, but after hours of waiting, Sakagami never arrived. He is actually dating another woman not far from Chiwa. He purposefully avoided meeting Chiwa in order to trick her. Sakagami and his friends saw her as nothing more than a stake. As if it wasn't enough, they mocked and degraded her without any remorse. Despite Masuzu's protests, Ida went to save Chiwa, but he comes in a goofy way, like a video game character. Even more crazy, Sakagami beat Ida and his companions for interfering with their enjoyment. Chiwa didn't sit still at this point. She attacked Sakagami and his companions with sticks until they fled, then saved Chiwa and was saved by her. Worse, he had been beaten. Masuzu skipped school the next day, and Ada intends to pay a visit to his phony girlfriend. But then he ran into her on the street. He then thanked Masuzu for providing Chiwa the stick the day before in order for her to save him when he was beaten. Masuzu unexpectedly admired Ada, who genuinely wished to assist others selflessly. She then kisses him. However, the hilarious part is that she then tells him to drink the sewage water because he kissed her. Masuzu and Chiwa surprise Ada the next day when they arrive at his residence. Regardless, the two of them are still battling for him. Ida discovered an anonymous confession note in his shoe locker on a routine school day. The letter conveyed admiration and a desire to rekindle their relationship. Uncertain about the sender's identity, Ida confided in his friend Kaoru, who suspected Chiwa was behind the letter. Chiwa was intrigued and tried to entice Ada away from the club room, only to be accused by Masuzu of wanting to take her lover. Masuzu advocated composing a theme song to promote their club and attract new members. Ada uncovered another letter from the same person who had confessed previously when inspecting his shoe locker. The message urged him to accept their emotions and assured him of their unbreakable bond. When Masuzu abruptly joined him, Ada discreetly placed the note in his pocket, trying to keep it a secret from her. Masuzu broke the stillness and asked Ada if he was hiding something from her during their walk home together. Ada was taken aback and requested clarification. Masuzu then confronted him in the club room about his alleged crush on Chiwa. Masuzu stepped closer, succumbing to her domineering personality, and asked that Ada refrain from paying attention to other girls when they were together. Ada is requested by Chiwa's mother to look after Chiwa while she goes to work. Chiwa developed a fever from running home in the rain. Chiwa awakens in her bedroom to discover Ada there. Surprisingly, she asked for his assistance in scrubbing her body, and despite her embarrassment, Ada complied. Ada later discovered a pair of chopsticks in her chamber, which happened to be his. She admitted taking them without authorization. Those chopsticks represented her most treasured memories, which held true whether Ida had a girlfriend or fell in love with someone else. Chiwa was not the sender of the confession letters. Ida understood. Their bond didn't need to be repaired because it had never been broken. It has always existed. Chiwa went to Ida's house the next morning and requested him to walk to school with her. Ida noticed Masuzu by the shoe lockers at school and inquired about her well-being. Masuzu mocked him, recalling how she had growled loudly earlier while attempting to woo her partner. Ada saw another love letter in his shoe locker and quickly closed it. The sender sought a meeting on the rooftop as he read the letter. On the rooftop, Ada encounters Kashino Himiko, a black-haired girl with a ponytail. She is revealed to be the female with whom he previously played video games. Himiko approaches Ada and embraces him, but Chiwa and Masuzu appear, visibly irritated by what they saw. Himiko stunned Ada and Chiwa by presenting herself as Ada's prior romantic partner, which caught them off guard. Masuzu claimed to be Ada's fiancé, while Chiwa introduced herself as Ada's childhood friend. Himiko was upset at the prospect of Ada being with another girl, requesting that he only hug her. Ada discovered Himiko and Masuzu conversing in the club room the next day. Masuzu had invited Himiko for tea to discuss Ada and had even considered inviting her to join the club. Chiwa disagreed, claiming that Himiko was only concerned with Ada and not with the club's fundamental goal of being popular. She insisted that her worry for Ada drove her to join, erasing any distinction. Masuzu then handed Himiko a notepad and instructed her to write a poem about the type of maiden she wished to be if she wanted to join the club. Chiwa intervened, implying that a practical exam was also required. While taking the practical test in the corridor, Himiko passed out, and the hall monitors interfered, removing Chiwa and Masuzu. Masuzu, Ada, and Chiwa were assigned to clean the school on their day off as punishment. A black automobile appeared out of nowhere, and Mana, Masuzu's sister, jumped out. She apologized for their unsuccessful chat with their father, who was enraged and demanded Masuzu's return home immediately. To avoid further complications, Masuzu immediately stopped her connection with Ada and returned to Mana. Chiwa followed Masuzu as she went to change, looking for an explanation for her sudden decision. Later, Himiko approached Ada with joy, assuring him that she had finished her vision, even though she wasn't required to turn it in on their day off. She did so since she wanted to spend the day with everyone doing different activities. Mana abruptly grabbed Himiko's work and expressed interest in Masuzu's club. Despite Ida's efforts to retrieve Himiko's work, Mana's security pushed him away. Mana chuckled at Himiko's childishness as she read her writing, leading Himiko to cry. Ida had had enough and yelled at Mana to stop ridiculing people's fantasies. He believed that these dreams provided an escape from the difficulties of reality. Despite his attempts to reach Mana, he was kept away by her security. When Masuzu returned with Chiwa, Ada demanded that Mana apologize to Himiko. Masuzu ordered Mana to leave Ada and Himiko alone because they had done nothing wrong. In a key moment, Himiko expresses her desire to join the group with Masuzu and Chiwa, stating that she had finally found a place where she felt accepted. Her statements galvanized her other club members and persuaded Masuzu to reconsider. Masuzu eagerly accepted Himiko's invitation and welcomed her into the group. Ada is startled awake in the infirmary by the sound of his name being yelled. When he opens his eyes, he discovers Himiko naked beside him, while Chiwa and Masuzu call out to him. Himiko attempts to calm Ada down, but he knows better than to obey her orders blindly. As the banging on the door becomes more audible, Himiko decides to walk outside to distract the others. Ada tries to stop her, but the door has already been unlocked, so he hastily hides behind a curtain. Masuzu and Chiwa finally enter the infirmary after several fruitless attempts. Instead of finding Ada, they come across Himiko, who is naked and tries to cover herself with a blanket. Masuzu inquires about Ada's whereabouts, but Himiko responds that she has no idea. Masuzu finds it difficult to believe because Ada stated going to the infirmary to relax because he wasn't feeling well. Himiko tries to explain that what they heard was simply the sound of the wind. Masuzu, on the other hand, is doubtful and wonders why Himiko is naked. Himiko admits that she had the opportunity to be personal with her ex-boyfriend, confirming to Masuzu that Ada is truly present. She approaches the curtain to check. The following day, a member of the disciplinary committee appeared. Femi requests that Masuzu dissolve her club. Masuzu opposed the disbandment since the disciplinary body had not issued a clear order. Summer break begins, and Ada enrolls in a cram school for pupils who are interested. However, he was placed in the same class as AI. This naturally makes AI very happy, and she begins to approach him. Her efforts, however, were futile due to her tsundere temperament. Masuzu forces Ada to come somewhere as soon as possible after the cram school. He arrived as quickly as lightning because he was still frightened she would share his shame if he didn't. Masuzu discloses her plan to him when they meet. She wants to use AI to keep the club she founded from being abolished. This allows their actions to continue. AI approaches Ada again at the tutoring location, despite the fact that she is still oblivious of her bashful character. She was overjoyed when he complimented her cooking. On that particular day, she returned home with a smile on her face. Masuzu and Ada sat together on a sunny day, drinking their beverages and talking about I's romantic status. Ada confirmed A's identity. I had a partner, but Masuzu was dissatisfied and insisted on seeing I's business partner. Ida encouraged Masuzu to trust him for once, underlining that continually doubting AI would result in no resolution. Masuzu apologized, blaming her lack of trust on her previous life as a pretender, which made it difficult for her to believe others. Ida reminded Masuzu that her inability to trust did not imply that she could not believe in anything. The following day, Karu and Ida was asked to see the Han River fireworks display, but he rejected, preferring to study in the prep school's study hall. Ida asked if she would be viewing the fireworks with her partner, and he said no. Caught off surprise, made excuses about having a date the next day because her partner would be in Tokyo during the fireworks. Karu, sensing the situation, offered them tickets to attend the film ORESHURA fight, and they all agreed to go together. Masuzu created a scheme to discover I's weakness during dinner with the club members. Masuzu was convinced that if they couldn't locate I's weakness, they should instill one in her by forcing her to cheat on her boyfriend. Masuzu intended to use Ai as a puppet to achieve their objectives. Masuzu included Chiwa in a double date with Karu while discussing the strategy, assuring Ada would go on a date with Ai while Hynek and Masuzu watched, trying to catch Ai's vulnerability. Hynek hesitated to demonstrate her commitment to Ai as her love mentor, but Masuzu assured her she didn't have to. Ada and Chiwa were walking together the next day when Ai started a conversation. Chiwa became possessive when reminiscing about their kindergarten days, interfering with their interaction. Despite their best efforts, the deadline passed without them carrying out their commitment. Chiwa's involvement persisted, and Masuzu squandered a chance by failing to take shots in the movie theater. Ada notices a notebook while arranging his backpack at class. Curiosity gets the best of him, and he starts opening it. All of a sudden, Ai appears and stops him, knocking Ida's bag over in the process. In the midst of the pandemonium, Ida takes the dropped notebook and dashes out of the room. I had no idea. She borrowed Ida's bag instead of her own, which included embarrassing written works she was too embarrassed to reveal, especially with Ida. Ai is embarrassed. Ida is reading her notebook as she rushes back into the room. Ai's spirits drop as she rushes toward him, overcome with shame. Ada, though, is taken aback by her reaction and departs the room. They end up rushing around, tripping and falling. Ada examines Ai and discovers her sobbing uncontrollably. She is heartbroken because Ada discovered all of her delusory poems in the notepad. Ida tries to reassure her by promising her that he would not mock the fantasies of others. He even discloses his embarrassing daydreams to make her feel better. Surprisingly, this act lifts her spirits. After he hands the crumpled notebook to Ida, feeling guilty for grasping it too tightly. He offers to pay for a new one, but it declines. Rejects, instead demanding his company. Ida is waiting for her, his face hidden by a hat, expecting they're heading to the hot river. Ai, on the other hand, brings him to a remote location that both of them feel disturbingly familiar. Fireflies begin to emerge as darkness falls over the area. Ida suddenly recalls a large cedar tree up the hill, where they can see a spectacular fireworks display. Ai recounts discovering the location knowing of Ida, using the childhood moniker Takun. Ida's mind is filled with memories of their time as kindergarten best friends, and he finally remembers Ai. She recognized him when she transferred to high school but never had the opportunity to reintroduce herself because of his strong friendship with Chiwa. Ai unexpectedly delivers Ada a piece of paper, a marriage registration form they completed as children 10 years ago. Ada had agreed to put his mark on it, but he is hesitant, overwhelmed by the suddenness of the circumstance and Ai's admission that she has a boyfriend. Ai, on the other hand, Ida is surprised when she locks eyes with him and discloses that her relationship status was a deception. Ai informs them that their club's operations may restart. She had requested that the club closure order be revoked, realizing that classifying the club as dangerous had been a mistake. Ai believes that all they need is a leader to guide them in better understanding love, and she volunteers for the task. Chiwa is vehemently opposed to the concept, yet she has no choice but to embrace it. Chiwa and Ai have a poor relationship in the club room and are often arguing. Hanka begs Chiwa to stop yelling at Ai, believing that Ai can help them gain popularity. Masuzu concurs, pointing out that Ai's wealthy and gorgeous boyfriend would make an outstanding coach. This surprises Ai, forcing her to lie about being in a relationship in order to elicit a reaction. Masuzu encourages Ada to act as if she is asking Ai out. Ai blushes and pretends to be uninterested, relishing the prospect of acting it out with Ada. However, when Ada abandons her quest after being rejected, Ai becomes upset and warns Ada not to hide his emotions if something similar happens again. Masuzu notices the problem and urges Ada to use some of his 100% pure fantastic from concentrate pickup lines. Ada reluctantly agrees under Masuzu's intimidation. Ai appears to be attracted by his weird behavior and pickup lines, even hugging him and stating they are already in a relationship and want to marry after graduation. The other club members have a negative reaction, and Ai is encouraged. I should calm down and behave correctly. Ai quickly returns to reality, stating that she was merely pretending to be seduced, but the others are skeptical. Masuzu inquires of Ai to repeat it, and he agrees. Chihua intervenes by pulling them apart, causing Ada to tumble on the floor and seems irritated by the show. Chihua is warned about her harmful actions. Chihua, on the other hand, defends herself, saying that Ai, as Ada's childhood friend, should get permission. In an unexpected twist, Ai admits that she, too, is Ada's childhood buddy, having known him since kindergarten. This news breaks Chihua's heart. Chihua and Ada are discussing their club's summer trip when Chihua becomes ill and needs to use the restroom. Ada follows her and inquires as to what is wrong. Chihua dismisses it at first, but Ada sees right through her and consoles her. He comforts her by explaining that it is the length of their connection that matters, not who knew him first. Later, Ada requests permission from Masuzu to accompany Chihua to the swimwear store. Surprisingly, Masuzu agrees, admitting that Ada's childhood pals retain a particular place in his heart that she cannot match. Ada and Chihua meet the next day, and Masuzu abruptly joins them, causing Chihua and Masuzu to argue. Both Heimka and Ai from a distance observe the debate. Ada is led into a dressing room by Heimka, while Ai takes him out of the store to watch her try on bridal gowns. To be fair, they decide that Ada will spend equal time with each of them. The strategy succeeds, and they continue shopping. Ada notices Masuzu's stillness on the walk home and inquires about it. She admits that she feels left out because she doesn't remember him like the others do. Ida reassures her and promises to make new memories with her from then on. They notice Ida's aunt, Seiko, approaching them as the sun begins to drop on their trek home. She greets them and they return the greeting. Seiko surprises everyone by asking who among them is Ida's lover. Masuzu takes a confident step forward, identifying herself as his girlfriend. Seiko, on the other hand, bursts out laughing, clarifying that she wasn't referring to the false girlfriend, leaving the others perplexed, as Seiko falls asleep unexpectedly. Hamiko and Chihua exchange shocked glances. Back at Ada's place, they start talking about their impending beach trip and how they plan to fund it. Seiko offers that they enter a company-sponsored contest that will grant them access to the company's health resort facilities near the beach. Masuzu wonders why she wasn't invited to the tournament after hearing this, given how much she adores Ada. Seiko explains that she rejected Masuzu based on intuition, noting that her experience as a video game producer has refined her skills in identifying and creating distinct personalities, including identifying individuals in love. Masuzu, on the other hand, refuses to back down and believes that she sincerely loves Ada. Seiko chooses to put her claim to the test, along with Ai, Chihua, and Hamika. They all answer a series of questions on an app, and the one with the highest score is regarded to be the most in love with Ada. Following the completion of the questions, it is revealed that Ai receives the greatest score, while Masuzu receives the lowest. Masuzu's responses were so flawless that it seemed as if she wasn't in love at all. Despite this, she is adamant about convincing Seiko that she is Ada's girlfriend and that she is madly in love with him. Seiko challenges her further, urging her to participate in the competition and stressing that if she wins, she will identify her as Ada's girlfriend. Later that night, Masuzu and Ada are walking around the children's park, discussing how easy Seiko can tell if their connection is genuine. Although Seiko detects any insincerity, they stay motivated to work harder and win the contest in order to eventually get Seiko's acknowledgement of Masuzu as Ada's girlfriend. Ada and Masuzu are pretending to be a couple on the train, but their club members can see right through it. They appear unnatural and ungainly. They are delighted by a gorgeous blue beach where they can participate in some enjoyable water sports. They head to the place they'll be staying at after having a nice time at the beach, while Ida is changing a light bulb. It is overheard by him, telling Masuzu she will never forgive her if she is merely pretending to date Ada to avoid other boys' advances. Ada is concerned about how their friends would react to Masuzu. Ada and Masuzu devise a scheme to fool their friends into thinking they are dating. Masuzu recommends doing something intense, such as kissing, but Ada is apprehensive and gives him the option to pull out. Ada eventually agrees to assist Masuzu, and they intend to kiss each other goodnight before going to bed. When Ida, Masuzu, Chihua, Ai, and Heimka are playing cards, Ida abruptly declares that he is going to bed. Chihua offers them a phone strap as a gift before they all go to bed. Ai, Heimka, and Chihua plan to produce matching phone straps for everyone, which affects Ada because they were all rivals when it came to him. Masuzu and Ada are talking in the bedroom. Masuzu considers resigning from the contest after contemplating on their circumstances because she knows she can't win against the others, but she also wonders how they would feel. She decides to take part and deal with the consequences. She can't quit up, remembering how much it would hurt Chiwa to lose him. She pulls Ada's journal and shows him the section where he wrote about becoming a doctor and healing Chiwa. Masuzu intends to let him go and return him to Chiwa once the journey is over. Lana and Masuzu are on a club trip when they are accidentally hit by a woman riding a bicycle. Lana inquires about her sister, and Masuzu confesses that she is only an item for their father to flaunt to his high society. Masuzu acts exactly as her father expects her to, but in doing so, she fools herself into forgetting who she truly is. Lana then informs Ada that Masuzu is capable of saying bizarre things. She may be tough, then lovely, then cold, and she can also string him along at times. Despite being strung along, Ada doesn't think it's all that horrible. It's not your typical chore. Lana stands up and thanks Ada for showing interest in her sister. Heimka is terrified of performing on stage due to stage fright. Ada suggests that she try something she enjoys to help her conquer her concerns. Emiko hugs Ada and tells him she loves him. She explains that since knowing him, she has changed and is now able to communicate with students, make friends, and even go to the beach. As the crowd begins to applaud, it is discovered that they are being filmed and displayed on a monitor. As a result, Masuzu suddenly participated in a love confession festival hosted by the beach in the afternoon. She planned to take advantage of the situation to stop her phony connection with Ada. Ada rushes to stop Masuzu, knowing what she was about to do. Fortunately, he appears just as she is about to expose the truth on stage. He then walked onto the stage and expressed his feelings to her. He adores Masuzu, warts and all, and no one else could be Ada's friend save him. Ada and Masuzu's relationship is overshadowed by the love confession. Masuzu is sitting on top of Ada the next morning, acting affectionately. Sayoko invites Ada out, and they talk about his current position. Sayoko gives him counsel, advising him to make everyone dislike him except his girlfriend. Ada tries, but fails to accomplish this by first speaking with Heimka. He then approaches Ai with the intention of making her dislike him. He requests to see their marriage certificate and intends to rip it up, but he can't bring himself to execute it after seeing Ai's look. Suddenly, he receives a paper cut by accident, and blood stains the paper, causing Ai to misinterpret it as his signing the marriage certificate and stamping it. Ada discovers Chiwa standing on the balcony, gazing out at the sea. He asks if she is angry about his relationship with Masuzu, and she sobs. Ada comforts her, but Chiwa turns around, kisses him, and declares her love. Masuzu enters unexpectedly and asks if she can join in. Ida is left dissatisfied and conflicted between his girlfriend and his childhood best buddy at the end of the episode.